Go ahead. Sorry, Paul.
I'll make a motion to go live back onto YouTube.
Motion to come out of executive session.
Yes.
There you go. We have a second.
Second.
Mr. Moskin,
Yes.
Ms. Michael,
Yes.
Mr. Calfee,
Yes.
Ms. West,
Yes.
Mr. Karas,
Yes.
Ms. Wood,
Yes.
Mr. Harder.
Yes.
Right. And do we have any additional questions while we're still on number 12 in regards to the HR contract? Was there any additional questions in this? Hearing none, what is the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance.
Ordinance.
Number 13 is an ordinance to approve the 2021 permanent budget, and this is Brian, Finance Director.
Okay, everybody. Well, we talked about this one at committee last week, so I was going through it. We've been going through it and looking through it and everything. Talked to a couple people who had some questions on it. The only change that we did have to make one change, and it's the plow truck. We got a new estimate on that plow truck. It was a little bit more expensive, I guess, just because of the pandemic or the timing or whatever. Last year when they got a quote, it was super cheap. So we had to add $9,000 total dollars on for the plow truck. That's the only change that we had to make from what I presented.
Is there any questions for Brian in regards to the budget? Hearing none, what is the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance.
Yes.
Right, and number 14 on the agenda is an ordinance to approve the February 2021 accounting transfers and advances. This is also the Finance Director.
Okay. And this one's just we had one advance payback that was made to the EMS fund, the 253 fund. And just a point of that we're doing with this budget. This was a payback from 2020. We're not gonna have too many more of these because they're not really needed. We're putting most of these grants, these small grants, within the general fund from now on. And that's what pretty much all other cities have always done. And just for the small grants, we'll still have CDBG, the HUD monies, all those out, but like these little EMS ones, the bulletproof vests, all those. So you won't be seeing these routine monthly accounting transfers and advances. I'm sure you'll miss them, but sorry.
Is there any questions for Brian on this? Hearing none, what is the pleasure of the committee?
Ordinance.
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 Thanks, Brian and Tammy and Denise and everybody who's been working on the budget behind the scenes. So. All right, number 15 is just for discussion. I was hoping we'd have our law director here, but before Kay gives an update, because I think she's got a recent one that differs from when I talked to most of you recently. So the 3 points of discussion I was talking about in regards to recycling haven't changed since our last discussion, at least over the weekend, one by one that I've talked to you, is number one, taking a look at some sort of extension or what that needs. And according to Semino, we don't need one. We should be able to move into number two, which is the look at the possibility of entertaining bids to try and get a cheaper rate for residents, possibly with an opt-out, similar to what was done years ago. And then the third part of this also, which I think is important, hopefully after March 29th, if many of us get access to the vaccine who are 16 years and older, that we can engage the public in some type of outdoor public forum in each of the wards, maybe all at the same time. I think that's all to be determined, but I think it would be a really good idea after the bids are in to engage. Go ahead, the public. What were you going to say?
No, it's going to simulcast the public hearings.
I think we'll have to, if they're public meetings, they'll have to either have some sort of record. We could have somebody with their phone going live on Facebook or something very simple.
Right. If we
Um,
do a community meeting, like in the past, when we've had community meetings, you don't have to. You just can't have 3 council members
Right.
or, there. So if each ward council person, wants to hold something in their ward, however you guys, however we decide to do it, and whichever is the quickest, the easiest, and, what's allowed to happen, would be my suggestion. Like City Park, one of the schools, maybe the high school, like you said, it all depends, where COVID is at that point.
Yeah, and I think in addition, what you mentioned, Amy, was also providing some sort of online forum. So we
Mhm.
could do a Zoom like this and just invite the public to
Right.
come on and give their opinions. So if they don't feel comfortable going in person.
Yes.
I have received numerous phone calls and emails over the last few days after it aired on Fox 8 and the Record Courier's article. So I have got a lot of responses. There's a little bit of both, but the majority want to be able to opt out. The ones that like having the service and the ones that don't care about that particular service, both ways. A lot of them felt that everybody should be able to opt in or out, whether they want it or not.
I think,
Yeah.
yeah, it would be a nice option. I think the question, similar to the community cleanup, what bids come in after we work with the administration on the specs of that bid, what that looks like. And hopefully we can get somebody to bid and what that might look like in terms of price, what you may or may not be able to recycle. Because I know I've seen Republic in other areas say that you can't recycle glass. So something like that could be an issue. But there's going to have to be some kind of education component,
Yes.
just reaching residents. So, but Rob, I see you chomping at the bit, but Kay, can you just give a quick update in terms of your update that you were mentioning earlier?
Yes, I spoke to Bill Steiner this morning, and it is confirmed that effective July 1st, the fee is going to go to $5.50 per unit. That's what Portage County Solid Waste will be charging the city.
So I think we heard, yeah.
What about the 650?
So that's, I think,
That's-
still
that's-
the
That's
question.
not true.
Yeah.
That's
I don't-
not,
so
that's not true.
I don't understand, and I've read the contract, that the first full contract that was in effect was in 2014. There was an amendment in 2018. And what I don't understand, based upon what Kay just said, is how do they dictate it? We have a contract with them. And just like the cemetery issue, they can't change the rate without us agreeing. So why is it we're looking at alternatives? Why can't we make them stick to the 5-year agreement that we have, which I believe started in 2018?
With the amendment.
Because when they amended it to 250 in 2018, they recorded the 250 as the per month charge for the first year of the contract. And that same provision that was amended says it's a 5-year term. And again, this is a question for Semino. I think he agrees that the only way the rates can change is by mutual consent. I think the question is about the term. So I would like to see if we can explore that before we explore alternatives that may cost people more. Because what people need to know from our last meeting, I believe, is that we're not forced into anything. In worst case scenario, we can leave the contract.
Well, I think in Mr.
And I know
Semino's,
that's what you were talking.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I
go
think
ahead.
in Mr. Semino's analysis of the contract, he basically agreed with you, Rob, that it cannot go up without mutual agreement. But he also includes that either party can terminate without cause on 90 days notice. So I don't know if somebody would want to play hard on that. And if we didn't agree to what that was, whether they might say, okay, at 90 days, they're out. I don't anticipate that happening at all, but by the contract, I think that is in there. But again, the concern over the, I won't call it exorbitant, but the very high increases in these service are of a great concern. So
Is it
Yeah, I
possible,
agree with that one.
Rob, well,
Yeah.
council, is it possible that if we wanted to stay with Portage County Solid Waste, that we just went on a year-to-year contract with them instead of these that have said like 4 or 5 years? I don't know, that's just a thought if that's the route, that we go. But I did read the contract again, and it does say that both parties have to be in agreement on the rate that they charge.
Well, I think I think anything's possible. I mean, we can always renegotiate the contract. We could also renegotiate the fee, they're asking for $550, it's at $250 now. Maybe there's negotiation. I don't know. There's a lot of possibilities. I raised this concern because at the meeting last Monday, without all the details, without reading the contract, I thought we were just at their mercy. And I don't think we are. And I think Andrew's right. I mean, we could always just look at other options. We can opt out of the contract because we can do that as well. Or they can if they don't like our stance on not wanting that increase.
And so
But
talking
Andrew's right. We need to look at alternatives.
in talking to Bill Steiner, he indicated to me that the commissioners dictated to Portage County Solid Waste what the fee increase was going to be.
And that's correct.
Yes.
We have a contract.
Well, I think hearing from Semino on what you're saying, Rob, in that mutual agreement, that was something that jumped out at me too, and he sent that email to all of us. So the path moving forward, wait for, I guess, Semino hopefully to maybe hop on tonight, give us some insight, but an update, I guess, with that specific question. And I guess we'll determine the key takeaway is trying to get the lowest rate for residents and offering some sort of service. Go ahead, Amy.
I was going to say, I can tell you, I know some of these, and I could be wrong, but from previous experience, some of these trash companies that give bids will also want us to go to one stream trash haulers. And, I know in the past that involved one of our own, which would have put him out of business. But now we have, a lot of people use a small business hauler, local, not Ravenna, but local, and does a lot of people in Ravenna. And I myself do use Conrad. And a lot of these bigger places will get you in at a cheap rate, but in the end, then they end up raising. And at that point, they have you. And so that's a big fear of mine. If we were to do with the one stream, trash service for the recycling, that really concerns me. I don't want to put a good family, small business, hardworking small business out of business. And a lot of residents like their own trash haulers. So that's my only concern.
I agree with you, Amy, but on the same token, we need to look at all of our options because maybe what Portage County is offering is the cheapest and we just don't know.
Right. No, I understand that.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying not to check our options. I'm just saying in the past, a lot of it with the recycling would mean that they would do your trash as well.
Mhm.
So,
But
anyway,
I'll push back on your notion that we'd be subject to increases. I think individual residents are. I know I have been in the past, that they get you in a lower rate, just like insurance companies, right?
Right.
You
And
order
cell
insurance
phone,
lower
cell
rate and
phone.
it goes up. But when we aggregate, just like we do for gas and electric, we're able to control those rates. And if we don't like the way it's going, we can just bid it out to somebody else. I mean, when the end of the contract will lock in prices. So I'm not so sure I agree that if we went to that approach, that we would naturally see higher prices. But yeah, but we don't know because we haven't investigated it. But yeah, I think we just need to look at all the options available. And whatever's the lowest cost for our residents with appropriate service.
Because I've
Should be
also
what we
received
do.
feedback, and some of it I have forwarded to you guys as well. Some people are all for, because they still feel that that is a value of the price increase on recycling, because recycling is important. We should be all doing recycling. And regardless of the price, people feel that even though, what it would go to, that's still a great deal to have recycling at your, curbside. And I've also heard from residents that don't feel they should have to pay that much of an increase, and if they don't recycle. So, yeah,
I think the opt-out, we have to look for the opt-out option just as much as we have to look for the best pricing for the service. And that has to be a part of our decision, because a lot of the residents want that option. And if they opt out and they're not paying that portion of the fee for whatever service we're providing, they can get their own service with their trash provider, have it picked up on the same day, or, whatever, but they're definitely wanting the ability to opt out.
I think moving forward too, it's going to be our responsibility to help, it sounds like right now, to help the administration to put together this bid. So I think that's part of the equation. What does that look like? And I think focusing just on the service of recycling to start out with, and get that out the door, because you have to, as Kay mentioned earlier, you have to have those displayed for 2 weeks before you can, take in any of the bids. So you're already looking at 14 days there. So I think working through some of those things these next week or two with Kay and the mayor to put together those bid specs are going to be important. So yeah, was there anything else that anybody had in addition to what was mentioned? Mayor, is there anything you would like to say in regards to recycling?
No, Amy covered the part that I was concerned with, because I can't believe anybody will just bid on the recycling alone. They are going to want the garbage trade too, because if the recycling stuff was selling well, we wouldn't be having this problem with the county with it. So, but I think you've covered all the bases. It's a matter of putting together what you want to have, and we'll see. Now, this could turn out like it does with our pickup days. In May, we had one bidder, and we might have one or we might have none. But that'll tell us something too at that point.
I was interested, I'd almost describe it as a hot button issue. The number of people that are talking and giving their opinions about this is quite large, including bringing up some of the issues from the past discussion of 4 or 5 years ago, or I'm not sure how many years ago, on whether we should have one trash company for the whole city. And in that way, not having 4 or 5 different trash haulers coming down your street every day. Different companies every day are picking up in every neighborhood. And so there's a number of people still that I think are interested in having that, of one hauler for the entire city. And if they do recycle at the same time, you could have your recycles out and your trash out on the same day, and it would be divided up amongst the city. So there are lots of opinions out there.
And we're not the only ones going through this, I'd add. You look in other communities around us, they're going through the same thing, all talking about the same issues. So seeing what works best for them too.
Right. Frank and I were around when all that trash went down the last time. And let me tell you, there was standing room only, and it got very hot and heavy in our council chambers. So people, the majority of the residents were not in favor or support of it. So it'd be interesting to see how times change.
that may have been true at the time. Tim, Tim, I like the way you itemized the benefits.
Right,
And I'll go one further because I had talked to those involved at the time when we were looking at a single trash hauler. Included in the contract would have been rubbish pickup like we have for the spring cleanup on a regular basis. So we check that box off as well. So there are great benefits. Now, there are some downsides too. But I think maybe Andrew was right. I mean, how much can we bite off in one sitting? Maybe we need to address recycling if we can first, and then see where it goes. But I think we need to keep all these options open, for the benefit of as many citizens as possible. And I agree with Cheryl too, that opting out should be a consideration.
The more we hear from residents, I think the better.
I agree.
Okay, well, anything else on this? Anyone like to add? That is everything on the agenda for committee of the whole then. Do we need a motion to adjourn committee of the whole? I think we do.
So move.
Thank you. All right. And at 8:05, I will call to order the special city council meeting of Monday, March 22nd. Chelsea, do you want me to read the roll?
I could do that.
Excuse me.
Mr. Kelfi,
Here.
Ms. West,
Here.
Mr. Moskin,
Yes.
Ms. Michael,
yes.
Mr. Karas,
Here.
Ms. Wood,
Yes.
Mr. Harper.
Here.
And are you able, can you read the roll? Or the call, excuse me, I'm sorry.
Yes, yes. You are hereby notified that a special meeting of the Ravenna City Council has been called for Monday, March 22nd, 2021, immediately following the Committee of the Whole meeting at 7 p.m. The purpose of the meeting is to discuss and/or act upon Ordinance 2021-026, approving the annual permanent budget, Resolution 2021-027, adopting a hazard mitigation plan, and Ordinance 2021-028, approving a contract for the spring cleanup program.
Thanks, Chelsea. All right, well then we will start with ordinance number 2021-26.
Annual appropriation ordinance, revised code section 5705.38, an ordinance authorizing the appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the city of Ravenna, state of Ohio, during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2021, and declaring an emergency.
Thank you. And this is sponsored by the finance director. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Brian, on this?
I think we covered it last week in committee. Like I said, we had the one change that I talked about in the committee of the whole, and it should set us with a pretty good budget for 2021 for the rest of the year.
All right, was there any questions? Hearing none, do we have a motion to waive the rules?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Kelfi,
Yes.
Mr. Moskin,
Yes.
Ms. West,
Yes.
Ms. Michael,
Yes.
Mr. Karas,
Yes.
Ms. Wood,
Yes.
Mr. Harper.
Yes.
And do we have a motion to accept the emergency clause?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Kelfi,
Yes.
Ms. Wood,
Yes.
Ms. West,
Yes.
Mr. Moskin,
Yes.
Ms. Michael,
Yes.
Mr. Karas,
Yes.
Mr. Harper.
Yes.
And do we have a motion to pass the ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Harper,
Yes.
Mr. Karas,
Yes.
Mr. Kelfi,
Yes.
Ms. West,
Yes.
Mr. Moskin,
Yes.
Ms. Michael,
Yes.
Ms. Wood.
Yes.
All right, that ordinance is adopted. The next item on the agenda is resolution number 2021-27.
A resolution of the City of Ravenna, Ohio, accepting and adopting the Portage County Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Mitigation Plan.
And Ms. Michael, this is sponsored by Public Health and Safety. Anything else you'd like to? Okay.
Nope.
Is there any questions from council on this? We only need a motion. Do we have a motion to accept the resolution?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
Ms. Michael,
Yes.
Ms. West,
yes.
Mr. Kelfi,
Yes.
Mr. Moskin,
Yes.
Mr. Karas,
Yes.
Ms. Wood,
Yes.
Mr. Harper.
Yes.
All right, and so that resolution is adopted, or passed, I should say, excuse me. Moving on to ordinance number 2021-28.
An ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract with Conrad's Disposal Incorporated for the spring cleanup program and declaring an emergency.
And this is sponsored by Streets and Sidewalks. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
I think we've covered it pretty well. Kay, was there anything you wanted to add?
No, everything's staying the same. They're charging us $240 a ton, and you all are aware of the dates. So nothing new.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
All right. Well, do we have a motion to waive the rules?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Kelfi,
Yes.
Mr. Karas,
Yes.
Ms. West, Ms. West,
Yes.
Mr. Moskin,
Yes.
Ms. Michael,
Yes.
Ms. Wood,
Yes.
Mr. Harper.
Yes.
And do we have a motion to accept the emergency clause?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Kelfi,
Yes.
Ms. Wood,
Yes.
Ms. West,
Yes.
Mr. Moskin,
Yes.
Ms. Michael,
Yes.
Mr. Karas,
Yes.
Mr. Harper.
Yes.
And do we have a motion to pass the ordinance?
So move.
Second.
Mr. Harper,
Yes.
Ms. Wood,
Yes.
Mr. Kelfi,
Yes.
Ms. West,
Yes.
Ms. West, Mr. Moskin,
Yes.
Ms. Michael,
Yes.
Mr. Karas.
Yes.
All right, that ordinance is adopted. That is everything on the special council meeting for tonight. I do want to mention, Mr. Semino did walk in. Is there any questions that we would like answered in executive session this evening? Do you want to take?
I feel like we
Everybody.
should, since he made us all the way down to City Hall. What would be the purpose of it?
Personnel, and I think potential lawsuit was one thing he was mentioning.
I'll make a motion to go into executive session to discuss personnel and possible litigation with the law director.
Second.
Ms. Wood,
Yes.
Mr. Moskin,
Yes.
Mr. Kelfi,
Yes.
Ms. West,
Yes.
Ms. Michael. I'll come back to her. Mr. Karas,
Yes.
Mr. Harper.
Yes.
Yes.
And- Okay, thank you.
Sorry, I thought I was unmuted.
All right, well, let me disconnect. We are going to have to quickly go back live just to come out of